Hello, everybody. Welcome to Free Marketing Fridays. So every week I share short, practical sessions to help you work a little bit smarter, get closer to your customer growth goals. I'm not selling any memberships. I'm not selling a course. I'm not pitching you for anything. And as always, I'm not going to give you any hustle bro advice because none of that advice winds up being usable. Nobody needs that in their lives, right? So what I am giving you is just straight up advice that you can use today. This is the same advice that I typically give my clients, except I'm compressing it into a 20-minute time block for you. So when you're trying to reach the right people, you're trying to make better, faster decisions with half the time, half the budget, all the pressure, like this session is definitely for you. Because it's not about doing more, it's about doing what works with clarity and trying to eliminate as much chaos as possible. So welcome everybody, and let's dive in. So today we are kind of continuing an 8-part B2B recession planning series, and we're getting into a big one, which is how to prioritize the projects that actually matter, which usually means killing off all those little shiny projects, but doing it in a way that gets your team and your leadership team on board. Because right now you probably have like 47 Chrome tabs open, half of your roadmap's on fire, and your leadership team still wants all those quick wins and the super fast results, right? It's kind of a losing combination, and we have to do something a little bit different. So today we're going to be talking about how to cut through the noise and pick the right projects, how to align your team around doing less, better, and how to sell that focus upstream to leadership without sounding like a Debbie Downer or getting a can't do that reputation with your boss, because that's not helpful either. So let's get to it. We are not suffering from a lack of creativity or a shortage of ideas. We are literally drowning in them. What we are suffering from is a lack of focus, and that lack of focus creates chaos, it drains our energy, and it ultimately impacts all of our results. And in a recession or when you're in a resource crunch, everything that was hard feels infinitely harder when there's so much chaos involved. Because doing more isn't really doing more. You have to focus on doing the right things with intention and focus. So today we're going to be talking about how to rescue your team from the flood of ideas and the onslaught of fun, shiny objects and get aligned on what really matters. Most teams I talk to right now, they are not stuck. They are sprinting, but like in 10 different directions. And it's not that people aren't working and not working hard. They absolutely are. But the nonstop fire drills absolutely take their toll. People are exhausted and they're getting demoralized. Everybody's just really, really tired. And the problem isn't effort, it's direction. Teams that don't know what's most important because there are 10 different projects that all have the flaming urgent priority associated with them don't know exactly what to work on. And we've mistaken being busy for progress that produces results, or at least creates enough of a distraction that you hope that people don't ask you for one more thing. So we have to pull back and see what's really going on. Everything can't be the most important priority, and that's what we're going to dig into. So we have all been here. Leadership keeps asking why it's not working and why, and then they turn around and keep piling on the shiny projects, right? The shiny objects and the things that they want to get done, their pet projects. Leadership wants results fast, but instead of creating space for focus, they just start throwing more projects at the problem. Let's launch a new campaign. Let's try out this AI tool. Let's spin up a webinar. Can we go viral on LinkedIn? Like we've all heard that one before. Can we go viral on LinkedIn? The answer to that is absolutely no. But meanwhile, the foundational problems are still existing. You have inefficient campaigns, bad messaging, siloed teams. Those are the things that never get fixed and they never get the right attention. But here's the thing, you can't optimize chaos and you can't herd cats. You have to choose what matters and prioritize it and make it the thing that you work on first. And this isn't about being anti-initiative, it's about being anti-distraction. And if you want to shift the dynamic, you've got to learn how to carefully push back on this mountain of incoming stuff without being defensive and still protecting your team and their time. So we're going to talk about how to do that in just a second. But if we haven't met before, my name's Sunny Hunt. I'm the Chief Customer Nerd here at Hunt Interaction. And ultimately, we help B2B companies grow their customer base in smarter and more efficient ways, starting with their most profitable customers and reverse engineering amazing insights from them. So I've worked with companies that look like this and a lot more. And I've also worked across over 15 different industries. And the thing that all of these companies and all of these industries have in common is that their customer growth challenges are surprisingly pretty similar across the board. So a lot of this advice applies no matter what industry you're in, what company you work for, or even what size team you have. Here is the line in the sand. If whatever project you're working on doesn't align to a top line business goal, you shouldn't be working on it, right? We all know this in practice, but we all know this in theory, but in practice, it comes out a lot different in the real world. When headcount's down, budget's tight, the pressure's on, you can't afford to waste time on work that doesn't move the business forward. And if you do, then you put everybody and everything at risk when you do. And nobody wants to be hunting for a job right now, like nobody. So this is where prioritization gets real. You have to start with what the business actually needs to accomplish and then work backwards from there. Everything else is just noise. Let's bring this down to a team level. This is the thing that you can impact today. Prioritization doesn't really happen at the executive level. It has to be operationalized on the ground. And this is where you have the most impact. It's direct and immediate. And prioritizing the work for the people that you work with every day is one of the ways that you can take this advice and put it into practice immediately. So how do you go from being pulled in 10 different directions to getting focused, aligned, and shipping work that means something? This is how high functioning teams start this shift. Number one, they have to let data drive the decisions. Data has to be involved in this conversation. The second part is committing to ruthless prioritization. So that means killing off pet projects and your darlings and that one project that you really, really wanted to work on. If you can't justify it, it shouldn't be on the list. And building in just enough structure that you can kill out some of the noise that's surrounding you. None of this is magic. This is discipline. It's focus, and it's choosing to do less, better, and on purpose. So let's break down each one of these particular points. Data guiding decisions. Every project should align with one thing, with two particular things: a business goal and a documented and quantified customer need. It's not enough to have that one customer support ticket that says, oh, well, we need this, and it becomes an urgent priority just because that customer is loud. You need to have quantified data about what your customers want and need from your business and apply it to your business goals in order to triangulate which projects need to be surfaced first. The nice to have projects should never make your priority list, unfortunately, even if they're clever and especially if they're trendy, because if they're trendy, they're probably going to be spendy. And you're trying to also optimize budget and save as much of it as possible right now. So this is where your customer insights become your filter, especially those customer insights around buying decisions, motivations, and the channel selection. These customer insights are not just something you randomly drop into a deck once a quarter. They're a real tool for decision making. If the work doesn't address something that's already been quantified by your best fit customers, again, it doesn't belong on your roadmap. And once you've got that prioritization filter in place to figure out whether or not projects should be on that to-do list or not, you need to make that list visible. Your team can't buy into prioritization if they don't understand how those decisions were made. And during stressful seasons, transparency builds trust. Clear communication creates the psychological safety your team needs to stay focused and continue building on that foundation of trust instead of spiraling out and worrying about whether or not they're going to have a job next week. This is where a strategy board comes in. It is a simple visual tool. You can use whatever tool you have. If you're using Notion, Miro, Trello, Asana, whatever. It shows that how every active project ties back to a business goal and a real documented customer need. And then you create a not now list or a parking lot. This is where your good ideas go to live and hang out that don't connect yet to the priority list, or you can't justify with data or capacity. This is where your shiny objects and nice to haves and your leadership curveballs go to hang out for a bit, right? And this matters because this list gives you a place to point to when someone says, why aren't we doing XYZ project? It also gives your team a gut check when they slip back into reactive mode instead of responding to critical needs. And it also gives you a shared language around why certain work moves forward and why certain work doesn't move forward. So now that you've picked the right work, we need to protect the time to do the work. You need to really be intentional about budgeting your time and protecting your productivity. And that happens at a culture level. If everything's urgent and everyone is always available, like Slack and Teams, they're notorious for that. No one is getting any real work done. So here's how you can do some of those things, how you can protect your time. Consider adding meeting-free focus blocks of time. If you naturally don't have as many meetings on Mondays or Fridays or Wednesday afternoons, use that as a block of time to allow everybody to just block it out on their calendars where you don't have meetings, you don't have confabs, you don't have mammoth email response task lists on your plate. This is where you get your deep work done. And then also create shared signals for focus time, like a calendar hold or a Slack emoji, so that when someone is really deep in the work, they can focus on the thing that they need to get done most. And it's basically sending a signal that they are not going to immediately respond to any particular request that you have. You're not just guarding time, you're protecting attention and focus, and you're advocating for your team. This is where progress lives. It's in those quiet moments and in that focused time and in the space where your team finally gets to do deep work without interruptions. Let's talk about structure for a second. And I'm not talking about like the over-engineered bureaucratic kind of frameworks that run the entire business. These are the smaller things that you can do in order to move forward faster. There is nothing worse than getting ready to finally ship a project, and then the approval brigade comes marching in with all of their little nitpicky feedback opinions, and then more often than not, all this feedback contradicts each other, and you have no idea how to take action on it. It's the worst feeling in the world, and it slows everything down. There are too many cooks in the kitchen, and they're preventing you from getting a lot of shit done. This is where a simple tool like a RACI comes in. And RACI is a framework that helps you clarify project ownership and streamline communication. It also helps you protect your team's time from swirl and indecision and too many fingers poking and prodding in the work product that you're creating. I use RACI with my clients and I try to enforce it whenever I can. It makes life so much easier and so much faster. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be clear and published so everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and their role in a particular project. If you want to break it down, here's exactly what that looks like. There are 4 parts or roles, and each role has a specific responsibility and is entitled to certain communication and approval authority for that project. You have someone who is responsible. This is one person who is responsible. They're responsible for moving the work forward. It's usually a project manager, coordinator, can even be a director, right? Their goal is to hit the deadlines and achieve success. Make sure that that project is done and shipped. Then you have one person who is accountable. It's just one person. This is the person who is responsible for the results. The buck stops with them. They are ultimately responsible for that. It might be someone on your leadership team. It might be your director. It might be someone you report to. But this person is responsible and they are accountable for all of the results that happen. Then you have contributors. These are the people who are actually doing the work, right? So in PR, it could be the people who are writing press releases. In development, it could be your developers and your engineers and your QA teams, right? These are the people who are actually pushing that work and creating it and getting it ready to ship. And then you have your informed team. These are people who are not actively contributing to the work, but need to be informed about what's going on. So for instance, if your marketing team is putting together a new customer acquisition plan, your customer success team probably needs to know what this campaign is actually going to look like. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right or the opportunity to put their fingers in the middle of whatever it is that's going on and give their 2 cents of feedback and commas and M dashes and whatnot. They are there to just be informed so that they're in the loop of what's going on. You could solicit them for feedback, but typically just don't do that. So this is the way to get work done without 10 rounds of revisions, 8 different team members in 18 different time zones, right? Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and they can work on their stuff fast. And the final part about killing off the noise that you can within your team is meetings. Kill off any unnecessary meetings. And when your calendar's packed with status updates, back-to-back meetings, your team's not getting work done. They're just surviving the day. So here's how you can cut the noise as far as meetings goes. First of all, if it doesn't require a decision or solve a block, cancel your meeting. If you're not making a decision in that meeting, just cancel it altogether. The second thing is avoid double coverage. If two people on your team are attending the same meeting, one of them is redundant, right? Especially if they're not making decisions. So one person goes, the other person gets the notes. The second is replace meetings with async updates. Write it down, record a Loom, post it in Slack. Your team doesn't need a live meeting for everything. That meeting that should have been an email, yeah, that needs to be the async update. And then keep your stand-ups tight. Use them to solve things that are blocking progress, not recap what everybody did yesterday. Everybody can put together a bullet point list and drop it into Slack about what happened yesterday and what they're working on today. This isn't about efficiency, it's about protecting your time and focus for your team so that they can make progress on the stuff that matters. So all of this stuff at the team level sounds really awesome, but leadership is never going to agree to do less. They have a certain level of tasks in their mind or a certain number of tasks that they want to complete in their mind, and there's like no talking them out of it. We've all been in that particular situation. Here's the thing, a lot of leadership teams don't fully understand what it takes to pull off the projects they're asking for. They think that creating a list of what they want to get done is an easy button that just gets slapped and everything automatically happens. They understand capacity in theory, but not in practice. Leadership wants to know what can get done and what kind of business impact it can drive. So your job is to make the argument for the ruthless prioritization you've already done at the team level. And I'm going to give you a simple framework to help lead that conversation with confidence and make your argument stick. Never met an acronym I haven't liked. This is another one, ALIGN. So walking it through real quick. Anchor to business goals, listen to your best fit customers, identify your opportunity cost, give trade-offs, and narrow to win. Let's break it down. Anchor to business goals. You have already done this work at the team level. Now all you have to do is turn it into leadership speak and make it part of your overall argument or pitch for why this needs to be a priority. The first step is to anchor everything to a top line business goal. And it's that top line business goal, the one that's been published, that you need to focus on. Every project needs to move the business forward or it can't make the cut. This is where parroting back what you've heard in meetings with leadership and your boss comes in handy. It gives you something to point to and align with your priority list. You're not just saying, hey, we can't do that. You're saying, we're focused on the work that drives what you said matters most. And if your team level project doesn't ladder up directly to one of the company goals, it shouldn't get prioritized and it shouldn't get done. Listen to your best fit customers. Again, once again, you've already done this work at the team level, but again, you're just adjusting the way that you're presenting this for the audience that you're talking to. So focus more on outcomes and less on the details of how you're getting it done. Show the data that directly impacts this decision, not a lot of the other data, and how it impacts those potential outcomes. It's the only way you can get opinions out of the room. Your argument here is we're prioritizing based on data from our best, most profitable customers, and here's how we do that. Your leadership will trust data. Prioritize projects that solve real pain and drive desired outcomes. Again, this is the quantified data that you get from your customers. This is where that comes into play. And identifying your opportunity cost. This is where you make the invisible visible. When you take on something, there's always something that doesn't get done, or it's done poorly, or it's usually by a team that's burned out. So here's how you frame it. If we take this project on, here's what doesn't get done. And here's the cost of splitting our focus. Time, budget, attention are limited. You have to find focus, and just because you're busy doesn't mean that you're effective. Executives and leadership teams already understand the opportunity cost. It's how they think. So when you're showing the trade-offs, you're making the strategy visible. And it also helps cut off the, why can't we just do both of these things conversation before it starts, because you're clearly outlining what the team's capacity looks like. But you're not done with your arguments yet. Got two more things. This is the moment where you shift from saying no to showing how you lead the conversation moving forward. And you can't just show up to a leadership team meeting with a 12-slide priority list of stuff. right? You need to come in with this conversation and this buy-off conversation with your leadership team with two clear options. And it can be your two top priority lists items, or it could be a shiny object plus the top priority list item, and compare and contrast between the two. This is the point where you ask your leadership team to buy into your prioritization that you've already done with your team. And your argument here is, here are two paths. We could do either project. One aligns more closely with customer data and customer and business goals, and the other is a high priority for you. And here's the potential impact. You have to do the work in this argument. You have to walk through the cost, the impact, the timeline, the results, and don't ask your leadership team to do this work for you, because their job is to make a decision. And then make a recommendation based on these two items and everything that I've just laid out for you. I recommend that we do this. Help make that decision a lot easier to say yes to. And then finally, this is where you seal the deal. Narrow to win. Need to focus on the idea that we're not scaling back, we are focusing. We're doing fewer things better, and it's not slowing down. It's how you move faster, reduce friction, and actually get results. This isn't about playing it safe, it's about being strategic with limited resources. Narrowing your focus means faster execution and better results. So instead of chasing everything, you choose what really matters and you go all in. And that's how you win when things get tight. So once again, I jammed like a ton of information into a short 23 minutes. Sorry, not sorry if I overwhelmed you. I told you there was going to be a lot of actionable advice, and let's just say I'm big on setting and meeting expectations. But let's pull it all together really quick in just 1 minute. This isn't about cutting projects and about saying no. It's about getting sharp, focused, and clear on what you need to do to make sure that you still have a job and the company keeps the lights on. At the team level, your team doesn't need another brainstorming session. They need priorities they can trust and a space to do good work. And that starts by using real customer insights to filter the noise, building in work structures that protects deep work, and building in just enough process to make that work move faster. And when it comes to leadership and buying in and getting that alignment with them, this isn't about saying we can't. It's about saying, here's how we win, and building a champion. Anchor your asks to prioritization and your business goals, back it up with your customer data, show the trade-offs, and lead with focus. Because in a down market, focus and smart prioritization is literally your competitive edge. You have to make a compelling argument to leadership that protects your team, your job, and your sanity. And that means you need to speak their language and do the work in advance to make it easy for them to say yes. And with all that, our time is up today. Take a deep breath. I know that there's a solution out there to getting better work done faster. It takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of planning, and a little bit of discipline, and getting some buy-in from leadership. So thanks for showing up. Now go do less work better. We'll see you next week.